Guten Abend, meine Damen und Herren. How are we this evening? I'm just going to... There you go. I knew that was going to happen. As is my usual form, I'm just doing a random guerrilla live just to see who's about. This time on a Friday afternoon. This is likely to be a really short live as well because I'm really ready for my tea. All I've had today is a Scotch egg, and this big lad needs a lot of filling, I can tell you. So we got 4 in the chat already. Of course, Mr. James. Mr. James, how the devil are we, sir? Oh, let me just make my bit screen bigger. Evening, Dave. Good evening to you, sir. Well done on the Matrix jacket. It's not a bloody Matrix jacket. It was a bolo, Belstaff jackets, Belstaff vintage jackets specifically for anything Belstaff. I mentioned this on like maybe 2 or 3 videos now because I picked up sort of like a waterproof one from Strawberry Fields early in the season, and that went really, I think I paid a tenner for it. Went for about 50-60 quid. But yeah, that leather jacket was, I knew it would go for good money. And yes, that is the one that I sold for £8 by accident. Fortunately, the guy who, of course, snapped up the offer, it was very, very good about it. And he said he did realize that it was probably too good to be true. So I cancelled the sale, selecting the buyer asked to cancel because that's the way the conversation went. So no dinks on my account as well. But yeah, 300. And it's actually, it's kind of, when I put the post on Instagram, incidentally, for anybody watching who doesn't know, I just sold a Belstaff jacket I paid £35 for £360. I put on the full listing price of £399 on Instagram, but it went on offer and it's going to Rochdale for 360 quid, which is very nice. Waffled on about that. Good evening, Mr. Harris. How the devil, sir? Leanne, evening. This is a surprise for me as well, particularly how hungry I am. I've got a Thai red curry for me tea. I'm really looking forward to it as well. Welcome, Leanne. Richard, good evening, sir. Jordan, how are you? Yeah, you too. It's going to be a brilliant weekend this weekend. I always say that because I'm a positive guy. I mean, there's quite a few boot sales been cancelled tomorrow because it's going to be chucking it down. I haven't checked the weather forecast for Sunday yet. Does anybody know what the crack is in the northwest on Sunday? I'm going to find something that's open if it's raining or not. So what have you guys got in store this weekend? On a wet M6. Nice. What are you doing on the M6? You're an office person, Brian. Good evening, Kath. How are you? Right. So what I thought I'd do with this live, I know, like you say, I do random lives. I don't usually announce them. It's usually how I feel on the day kind of thing. I've been out doing retail arbitrage this afternoon, and it didn't go too well, to be honest. I came home with, well, my tea. I keep going into Bolton, and I never have very much success retail arbitrage in Bolton. It's really, really rare for some strange reason. I suspect because of the concentration of resellers, but it is what it is. Every now and again, you'll sort of like get lucky, but yeah, it wasn't great. It wasn't great. But we've got to keep the faith. Got to keep the faith. I'm heading out 50 minutes. Contact fingers. To contact fingers crossed. To a contact fingers crossed. I can't read. I need my readers. I would wear my readers, but they're like Coke bottle bottoms. Honestly, you can see smells with them. But I'm just going to wing it. Sunday is looking clear. Bolton all the way. I might see you there, actually, James. if that's the case, I think it's about time I got the bruising. Seeing as you got the cakes in at Norcross, I think it's about time I got the bruising. Dealer development manager. Is that what it's called now? What do you develop them into? That dude does make you sound like a cartel boss, by the way, Brian. Low chance of rain and bot on a Sunday. Yeah, we've got to keep the faith, Kath, haven't we? Got to keep the faith. Yeah, so anyway, there is sort of like a loose plan for this live, albeit a very last moment thing. It's a subject I was going to do a video on, but I've kind of decided against it because a few people now have made a video on the subject, and I don't really want to labour the point. And I kind of thought that it would be a better idea to do a live on this particular subject. I will let you know what it is in a minute, because then we can get some real-time feedback as well, to see what you think. Anyway, what I'm talking about is eBay Open in Manchester. There's quite a few people that familiar faces that went there, and it was actually a really great day, not least the food that they put on. I found out too late it was a free bar as well, which was a massive fail because I'd driven into Manchester. What a muppet. But anyway, I did make some notes in my little eBay book. Not very many, to be fair, but the points that I did, the notes that I did make, I have actually implemented them, and I've seen significant a significant result. Now, there's a good reason it might be coincidence with obviously the launch of Q4, but I'm going to go through them anyway and get some feedback from you guys. So I'll keep on top of the chat as we go, although I'm going to regret putting this one up. Kath, hope the dogging went well. Yeah, he's very rude. It's very rude. Kath's a lady, James. I mean, she's a small little lady, but she's definitely a lady. Oh, that sound never gets boring. I have sold Christmas decorations. I've said this before, and I'll say it again. Christmas decorations. I think I paid, how much did I pay for these? I'll show you, just as we're going on a bit of a tangent here. I paid nothing for these, apparently. And I'll show you what I sold for £20. Light up porcelain, sit on a shelf ornaments. What's that? For any of you that are familiar with my lives, you'll realize why I heavily edit my videos. There's a lot of ums and ahs and thinking time goes on. Probably is learning how to make lots of noise. Rather you than me. Good evening, my dear. How are you? Have you left your husband yet? I'm joking, of course. Evening, Chris. How are you, sir? Oh, he's doing it again. Clicking the comments. Is Park Hall still on tomorrow? I haven't checked the weather, to be honest. If Norcross is cancelled, it's usually because it's really crappy weather. So I suspect Park Hall, if it is on, it's going to be very quiet. But I haven't checked, if I'm honest. They might update their Facebook thing. I'm just getting over a cold as well. So if I start coughing, then that's the reason why. It's a bit windy up north. It is that, yeah. It is that indeed. Right. Okay. So let's get into it. New name. Sorry, I've just seen this comment. New name for me. David, good evening, sir. Scottish reseller here. How far up in Scotland are you, David? Let us know. Right, let's get into the reason for this live. eBay Open 2023, absolutely tremendous day. Really, really good value for no money whatsoever. I've made some notes. I'm going to go through them in a random order because that was the notes that was the style of the notes I took. The first section is going to be titled Listing Etiquette. Like I say, I've implemented these tips, and particularly for the launch of Q4, and my sales since the start of the month have been absolutely on fire. I have never had a period of sales that have been this good. Like I say, the rider to that is it may well be because of the start of Q4, but obviously I've experienced a few Q4s reselling now, and none of them have been this significant. Anyway, so the first, I haven't actually read these notes before I came online. It's just literally what I've wrote in the book on the day. When you're putting together your listing, the most important part, there'll be people who will have a different take on this, is the title of the title of the listing itself. eBay suggested or recommended, should I say, a way that's formulated as well for maximum effect. The first thing they said was always try and use all the characters on the title, but always put the brand first. So you really, a lot of it is common sense, really. You have to think like a buyer. And if you're searching for something, you would type in exactly that, brand first. Like I say, use the full range of characters. Don't use any special symbols, any emojis, or any characters. Just use words, basically. Because each word that you use in your title is a keyword. It's a searchable keyword. As far as pictures are concerned, they recommend everything should be square. They also recommend that the first picture should be on a white background. Now, again, this is going to be a contentious point because people like a bit of individuality. But eBay spend an absolute fortune on advertising on platforms such as Google, so on and so forth. And those platforms prefer a clean white background to the images. On the subject of images as well, the second image, if you can, make it a lifestyle picture. So, for example, if you're trying to sell a vase, try and dress a vase on a table in a room, say with maybe a flower in it, whatever. Just lifestyle picture, so people can envisage it in their room. It's not always possible. I mean, to be fair, it's quite rare that that's possible for me to do. So, generally speaking, I'll just do the best I can as far as lifestyle pictures are concerned. But try and use all the full range of pictures if you can. I think I always say, now I don't know how accurate this is, I'll always say that the minimum amount of pictures you should be using is 4. Now that's just my take on it. It's not founded on any sort of like evidence, but again, just through personal experience. Okay, I'm just going to keep on the chat. Get the cards out, fly to the shops, of course. Can't leave him, he's too nice. Oh, bless you. Sister lives 10 okay. Loch Winnock, 20 miles west of Glasgow. Lovely. Good evening, Jeff. I don't know how I said Jeff. Good evening, Jeff. How's the lovely US of A today? Adding the flower to a vase leads you to it. I am not as described. Yeah, that's a bit of a stretch. I mean, to be fair, you've got a bit of a point there, actually, Kath. That I think some buyers will just complain for the sake of complaining. Far be it from me for casting nasturtiums. Cop Vintage, good evening. Okay, like I say, this is very, very unscripted and unprofessional. I'm literally just reading my my notes. Item specifics. It's a really, really good idea when you're setting up your listing to go through your item specifics and try and use as many of them as you possibly can. I know a lot of them won't be relevant, but most importantly, use the item specifics that are available. In some of the item specifics, it's a text box that you physically have to type something in. In others, the drop down lists, which you can type in if you will, or if you want, or use a selection from the drop down list. Always use the selections from the drop down list. Now, I know a little bit about how databases work, so I'll apologize if I'm teaching anybody to suck eggs. If you don't use the item specifics that are on the drop down list, then it won't be searchable. I mean, to be fair, I don't actually know why there's an ability to type in those boxes a custom item specific rather than only select one from the drop down list, because those will be the only item specifics that are searchable, if that makes sense. eBay's options on those lists. So why you can type your own in as well as those, God only knows. God only knows. Sorry, I've just got to put this comment on screen. Jeff, you look far too young to be 56. A very happy birthday to you, sir. So that's item specifics. Your descriptions, try and make them concise and to the point. Obviously, you need to be as accurate as humanly possible, particularly when you're listing used items. I always follow the tact of if there's any issues, any defects or anything like that, just put a neon light to them and mention them specifically in the listing, but try and cut down on the waffle. I should have practiced this before I go live. Okay, so this is probably a big one actually, as far as your exposure on eBay is concerned. They're basically saying any listings that are older than 90 days on your store, they're just dead. They're irrelevant. So the recommendation there is to delist and basically refresh the listing. Try just completely redo it. If the item's still sellable, I think the first thing you need to do is decide whether you still want to sell that item, because if it hasn't sold in 90 days, there's a good chance, unless you've completely cocked up the listing, then nobody bloody wants it. So you have to consider that factor. But if it is still an item that you think you just can't understand why it hasn't sold, refresh the listing. Redo your title, redo your descriptions, if possible, redo your pictures, make sure they're clear, make sure you're in the right category, which is quite a big one for the listing you put on. Just double check everything and then sell similar that listing after you've changed. Personally speaking, what I'll do is, even if the title's spot on, I'll maybe change it slightly, change the grammar slightly, even if it's just a case of one more or one less character, just so it's slightly different. Also, what I'll do is slightly change the price as well. I think if the listing has been refreshed and revitalized in several fields, then again, there's no sort of like hard and fast evidence about this, but I think that really helps as well. So 90 days or older, listings are dead. Just do something with them. I'm very conscious of not letting the chat run away from me. Everybody's wishing Jeff happy birthday. Bet fence is looking like ready to take off. Deep joy. I've had MPN numbers added for clothing, and by inputting the number of which it's typed an item shoes, even when it's not in the title. I might be reading that wrong, James, but I'm not quite getting that. Sorry, mate. I've had an example of revitalizing listings earlier today. Somebody on the ABLreselling Facebook group said that she'd listed, she was looking through her list, her unsold listings, and realized that she'd put a particular item, I forget what it was, in the wrong category. So she changed it to the right category, and something that had been hanging around for months sold within a day. So there's a really good fresh example of that kind of thing. Still having this clicking problem. Sorry, guys. Life behind what? Seen it bought on the other week. I'm waiting for the upload. I think it might be on tomorrow. Where's it from tomorrow? Yes, yeah. There's one that's coming out tomorrow. It's from Bolton. The last couple of, in fact, I did put out a video yesterday as well, because the last, I won't say the last two boot sales I've done, the last two boot sales that I've published on YouTube were very, very quiet. So I kind of feel that I should be giving you guys some value for money. So I need to pad them out a bit. Right, that's up to date on the chat. 90-day maximum on listings before they get since. One of the biggest changes that I've made off the back of eBay Live is postage. Now, I've always said that postage isn't free. Postage isn't free. Always charge postage. However, and thinking about it after the fact, it makes perfect logical sense. eBay prefer free postage. And the reason eBay prefer free postage is because buyers prefer free postage. It doesn't necessarily mean to say you have to be out of pocket, of course. Just add the postage costs to the cost of the item. But it's a psychological thing. People like the word free. And if the word free is anywhere, if any of your listings, it has a greater chance of converting those listings into sales. Now, I've not necessarily on my older listings, but if ever I end listings to sell similar and any new listings, it's free postage across the board. And I really do believe that is added to my recent success in sales. So I would strongly recommend that you try it yourself. Like I say, bulk changing existing listings is a bad idea, because you're bound to miss something that really, really does need the postage element on it to justify the margin or justify the sale in the first place. So be very careful about bulk editing your listings for that. Good evening, Lynn. Pete, how are you, sir? Long time no see. Missed you to pop over to Yorkshire. Absolutely. Yeah, it's been a long time. Last couple of times I went to Strawberry Fields, it was very much more like a market than the car boot sale. So I've kind of lost the desire to go that far afield, really. With Poshmark collapsing and Depop struggling, are we going back to two main reseller sites, eBay and Amazon? I only played with the other platforms. I'm eBay and Amazon through and through. I would never put all my eggs in one basket with one platform, because even as successful as eBay and Amazon are and well established and they're not going anywhere, I just think it'd be madness to put all your eggs in one basket. In fact, I used to, before I got involved with Amazon, I used to predominantly be on eBay. I still am predominantly on eBay, but and I was very, very nervous about just being on eBay. But now I'm getting to the stage where it's not greed either. It's being on the two platforms. I'm thinking maybe I'd rather have, even if it's the same revenue coming from more sources, I'd rather that than just the two. And I think it's brought it home really with the Poshmark thing. I think a big game changer will be if Vinted decides to allow business sellers as well. I think that'll be, I think they're missing a trick there, but I'm sure they've got the reasons. I don't know enough about that platform to comment, to be fair. I mean, of all the platforms, though, to be fair, I think eBay and Amazon are just your safest bets, and they probably always will be. I found that if you change the category, then all the item specifics go. Yeah, they will do, because item specifics are relevant to the category. But then again, saying that, if you're going to change the category, then you're probably going to be looking at the listing as a whole anyway, to be fair. I think every now and again, I probably don't do it as much as most, but when I say take everything that's 2 to 3 months old and end to sell similar, it is laborious, because generally speaking, it's say 30 to 50 listings. I'll go through every single one individually and refresh the listing as a whole. I know a lot of people just end them and sell similar, and although that that does work to a degree, I think it works to a greater degree if you refresh those listings individually by going through them and making sure that it's as good as it possibly can be. 3P, Amazon, eBay, and eBay gum. eBay gum's never dying. Have you put a price up with your free postage? Yes, I have. Yeah, I'm it's actually a really good question, that, Richard, because I make sure I'm obviously not going to be out of pocket from the postage. But again, I like to think I'm being subliminal when I put a posting together, and when I put a listing together. It's got to be relevant. I mean, and it's all about the margin at the end of the day. I know how much margin is in each item that I'm selling. So I do have bottom goalies of what I want to achieve. So there's an argument to say that the postage element, or it being separate on eBay at all, is an irrelevance. It's an absolute irrelevance. It doesn't make any difference whatsoever to what we do to our revenues, because it's just, when we get our payout, it's just a total amount. There's no differentiation. Yeah, so it is very carefully calculated. I always bear that in mind, the postage element. I think the way to answer that is to look at it the other way. I would probably drop it if, when I was adding the postage, I was conscious of the body price being lower than the competition, if that makes sense. Anyway, I think the short answer to that question is, whether it includes postage or it's plus postage, it's around about the same figure. Pete, I always thought eBay Gum was just a wind up. I knew it used to be a thing, and somebody really tried to get it going, but I thought it died a death a million years ago. It's just something that's, I don't want to say anything. I might be leaving myself open to litigation. I don't even know if it's a thing anymore. I'm making my eyes. No, there's a background that's blurry. I can't turn it off. There is a blurry option on StreamYard. It just makes my background even more blurry. I just think it's the camera. I don't know what the crack is there. So yeah, sorry. It's just me. I can actually do something about it. Just talk amongst yourselves for a minute. This isn't necessarily going to make it any better, though, to be fair. Let's try that. Is that better? People are going with such shape. Yeah, I think I couldn't comment, Jeff, honestly, because somebody be watching this and I'll just sue me for some reason or another if I say anything derogatory. Could drop ship on Dave's accounts. That is actually very true, that, Chris. With Amazon, you can cross fulfill. It's very manual. So, for example, I send my stock my fulfill by Amazon stock into Amazon, and they fulfill the orders from their warehouses. What I can do as well through Seller Central is list the same items on eBay, and if a sale is made on eBay, then I can enter the customer's details on Seller Central on Amazon, and that order, and Amazon will fulfill that order for me. But because it's so manual, I don't do that. Spock is advertised widely too. Yeah, I've not seen the adverts for Spock for quite a while. I don't think I've ever. I think I might have bought something off Spock once. Never really done anything with it. Vinted not allowing resellers is easily avoided by saying things like "just empty my wardrobe and no longer worn." Yeah, and I think the other one is don't list multiples of any items. I mean, I'll open that to the chat. Anybody from? I mean, I don't want to drop yourself in it. Nobody else is watching anyway. But any business seller selling Vinted with any great success? I can't imagine it's a platform that can be scaled very much because of that reason, but I might be wrong. I mean, tell me if you know better. I heard a Japanese Chinese writing on eBay earlier. All right, cool. That's interesting. Why did you have to do that, Chris? We're talking to, we're translating for a potential buyer. Does anyone on eBay come across selling mini wax jackets you, Dave? Probably. I mean, to be fair, I've probably bought more than I've sold this year. The trip I did up to the northeast, there's still a lot of those jackets left. I think I've priced them up. I'm just being stubborn. Then again, saying that being stubborn pays off. That Belstaff jacket, I was stubborn about sitting on it. It was listed for 2 months. I didn't anticipate it selling very quickly, but sometimes if I decide something's worth a decent wedge because the research I put in, I am stubborn. I won't drop it for ages until until that coin splits and they decide actually I was wrong, or nobody wants it, nobody's buying it, so bloody reduce the price. But some things you just got to stick to your guns, and invariably it's higher value items as well because you're just waiting for the right pair of eyes. If something's expensive, then I think there's less chances you're going to get an impulse buy off it. Has a Guinness World Record, Jeff. Actually, Kath, funny you should say that. I do have a Guinness World Record, but it's not for wax jackets or anything to do with reselling. This is like, I've never told anybody this because it's only just come to mind because you mentioned Guinness World Records. No, it's not embarrassing. I'm going to share it with you anyway because I'm an oversharing kind of guy. My world record is I was one of something like 770 odd people in one. Anyways, it was the world record for a number of people in one location in their underwear. So, and there was 770 of us. There you go. It was summer, fortunately. I am blurry if I move my head really quickly. Josh, do you ever fluctuate your promoted listings a percentage or just keep them the same? I used to, Josh. I used to bulk edit my promotions. I've stopped looking at the suggested promotion rate because it's so wildly different. You could, for example, if you decided, if you had, say, half a dozen of the same item used, various conditions, so essentially you're going to have 6 listings for the same thing. You're just using different pictures, sort of like relevant to each item, but everything else on the listing is the same. If you go down to the promoted listings section, then you'll see that this, in every single case, that suggested rate for that listing will be different. And there just doesn't seem to be any rhyme or reason to it. So I just do it myself. It's largely to do, when I promote my listings, it's largely to do with what it is and how common an item it is. So the more common an item, I'll probably sneak it up. It's very, very rarely over 10% when I promote, very rarely. But also it's very rarely under, say, 4% as well. Thanks very much for the videos. I learn a lot. It's price to sell on eBay. My pleasure, Pros. It's circular. I get as much feedback and knowledge from the people who watch the videos as I give out. So yeah, it's circular. I think I mentioned this on a video that came out yesterday. You don't create, doing this, you don't create your own competition, because I'm a big believer in a rising tide lifts all ships. So if I'm sharing knowledge and receiving knowledge, everybody wins, and that's just the way I look at it. Another Scottish person in it. It's blowing a gale everywhere today. Kath, I heard of Vinted are allowing business sellers in France. I'm not moving to France, Kath. Sorry. Does that mean if you're not a Vinted seller, you're not allowed to go to France? There was a banner with Japanese writer for some reason. Must have had a glitch. Okay, while we're on the subject, Chris, you might this might be new news for people, but it can be a game changer. Does everybody know that using Google Lens, you can translate things just by shining your camera at it? If you open Google Lens and tap on translate, you'll see the camera view on your phone, and it will translate the words in the view on the camera. Does everybody know that? Some people don't know it, and it's like the last person I told thought it was, and it was like a caveman discovering fire for the first time, honestly. So anyway, if you're not already aware of that, give it a go. It's amazing. I'm sorry if that was completely irrelevant to what you're on about, Chris. Good evening, Coach. I've never seen you on one of my lives before. How the bloody hell are you, sir? It's been 1,000 years since we've spoken. I think the last time we did speak, I was doing a bit of retail arbitrage in Leyland. Good to see you, kiddo. I don't know where your class is doing good on Vinted, but I must have made nearly £1,500 on Vinted in the last year. That's good. That's good. I have made absolutely nothing on Vinted in the last year, so you're £1,500 ahead of me, Lisa. Sitting in the big bath of beans. No, not quite. I was just in my underpants. Watch your video regularly. Much obliged, sir. Much obliged. Thank you for the ad revenue. Okay, back to the topic. I've only just got to the bottom of the first page. Like I say, apologies if it's been a bit all over the place. And reading these, my hand, honestly, is that going to come into focus? My handwriting, no, that's not going to work. My handwriting is just atrocious. Listing quality report. I don't even know what I mean by that. One thing they did suggest as well is put some effort into researching how Terapeak works. For those of you that are not familiar with Terapeak, it's a more in-depth research tool that's available on desktop on eBay for checking comps, basically. So, for example, if like in the case of that Belstaff jacket, not very many comps at all, but you're absolutely convinced that it's worth something. So to correctly value it, you can look back further and get more information on items that have sold over the last 2 years. So if you're just checking comps on your phone, I think it's just the last, I want to say 90 days. Correct me if I'm wrong. So that's the only information that's going to be available to you when you're out in the field, basically. But Terapeak will give you a much more detailed drill down into comps. Google Lens has disappeared from our Google phones since the last update. Just your fault for buying a bloody Android, Keeffe. Sorry. Will you stop it in your what? You should stop it in your underpants. I might have to leave. It's not a pretty sight. Honestly, it really isn't a pretty sight. I should have taken Keeffe's suggestion and sat in a bath of beans. I think you would have struggled fitting that many people in a bath, though. I downloaded listing quality report, but it said all my listings were good and didn't need to do anything to them. Fantastic. Good evening, Sophie. How are you? I was watching you last night. That sounded creepy. I meant your video, of course. Okay, up to that in the chat. Yeah, so Terapeak, check it out. It's definitely a very, very useful tool for research. Like I say, practically speaking, it's not really much good in the field because even if you can access it, I think the information that you can draw on is very limited. So it's mostly a desktop thing. But if you've got any collectibles or antiques, very vintage items, that kind of thing, that definitely warrant more investigation, Terapeak's a really good tool. Store optimization. I've just put as a subtitle to that, change store branding to ABL reselling, which I haven't done. I think the point there was leaning into social media, any sort of like social media activity. So, for example, if you've got a significant following on Instagram, then it's a really good idea to have some kind of relevance from Instagram to your eBay store and vice versa. So the most obvious thing would be to have the same name or reference your eBay store on your socials. Now, this was a conversation we were having earlier today on the Facebook group as well. This is just an opinion, but I'm not a fan of Facebook in the slightest. The only thing it's good for is of course, the ABL reselling community group, resellers helping resellers. We call them the 500 Club because it's limited to 500 members. That's to keep it friendly and on subject, really. I've seen too many groups that get too big. They just get a bit nasty and there's a lot of backbiting in there, that kind of thing. It's a lot easier to manage at 500. I digress. But aside from that, not a fan of Facebook at all. And particularly when it comes to promoting eBay stores on Facebook. I mean, the last thing anybody wants to see on Facebook is more frigging adverts. It is just a platform of adverts now. That's not the case with Instagram. I think that Instagram is amazing for building brand. I strongly recommend, even if you're not like me, who's a frigging show off, and I'm quite comfortable standing on a frigging soapbox. Even if that isn't you, you don't have to have a physical presence to have a personal brand. You can have your thing that you like doing, sharing your interests, for example, on Instagram, and then you can build your own personal brand by doing that. It's very, very effective. I've made it's impossible for me to say how many sales, but I've made a significant number of sales on eBay because of having a social media presence, not necessarily just YouTube, but Instagram as well. So if you can start building that presence and figuring out how it works. TikTok's another amazing platform. I'm getting a little bit of traction on TikTok now. I'm not putting as much effort into it as I probably should, because the potential with TikTok is explosive. But anyway, if you can start building a personal brand on those platforms, then it's going to help your sales. It's okay, I found it. It's me. Well done. Very proud of you, Keeffe. Did someone put something weird in my tea? Dave's a bit fuzzy. Yeah, I don't know what it is. It's because I need to have a green. What's going on? That's creepy. I need to have a green screen behind me. So StreamYard's not very good for background shenanigans. Anyway, it's either that or a blurry picture of my dining room. Anyway, so this is a lesser of two evils, believe me. Watch it as well. Sucks. Oh yes, that was it. Yeah, I saw your thumbnail about the Poshmark video that you did, Sophie, but I haven't watched it yet. I'll watch that with me tea. How's that? Get your ad rev you up. Incidentally, SB Reselling Co. If anybody isn't subscribed to Sophie's channel, just nip over after this live, of course. Just nip over and subscribe. I mean, first off, I think she's a frigging hero because she's a nurse. But aside from that, she's a real. I hope you don't take this the wrong way, Sophie. I know you won't. A grassroots reseller. She's in the thick of it. Just like a beagle looking for deals around the charity shops and whatnot. So yeah, give Sophie SB Reselling Co. If somebody who is a mod could stick Sophie's channel link in there, it'd be very much appreciated. Give us some love. I think it's a background making fuzzy around the edges. It's my age making me fuzzy around the edges, Lisa. I don't know what that means. Indica or sativa. Is it an advert? I don't know. More than welcome, my dear, and deserving as well. I'd love your content. I think it's great. Anyway, moving on. I'm going to wrap this up. Jeez, we've done nearly 50 minutes already. We'll go aim for an hour. Well, so what other notes have I made? Item specifics are important. Already covered that. Item specifics use eBay's not your own for better search results. I mean, if you think about it, I know I'm sort of like going over trodden ground, but as far as item specifics are concerned, if you think about it logically, it makes sense. If rather than select from eBay's drop-down list of item specifics, if you're typing in something that is probably relevant but isn't a search term in the database, then you're just wasting that item specific. You're wasting your time doing it because it won't draw any results at all. These notes are sort of like a bit arse about face because I'm coming back to my same original point on the title. The first 4 words of the title are the most important. So brand first, obviously, and item, what the item actually is. if I thought the model was very important as well, so it should go within the first 4 words of an item title. But as long as it's in the title, it's not as important as being absolutely as descriptive as you possibly can be. So if you think about the first 4 words of your title of any listing, if you have it in your mind that those are the only words that buyers are going to see, you've got to make them count. You've got to make them count. So brand first and then whatever it is, but be as concise and specific as you possibly can to get to your goal. And after that, definitely use the rest of the characters available to pad out that with keywords. You'll have seen it yourself. It's not just about titling, it's about drawing eyes to your listing. So once you've told people what it is, use the rest of the space available to sell it, essentially. What color is it? What is it used for? What is it ideal for? So on and so forth. Just use all your title. I really labor that point. Sorry. You answer my question. Did I? Hey! Retro based. I think you're a new sub, aren't you? Thank you, sir. Which really good stuff. You seem to get much cheaper stuff off North to come down in West Sussex. You're not the first person to say that. You're really not. I think I don't know is the honest answer. I don't know. I don't know whether it's because we're poorer up north or because of concentration of boot sales, sport for choice. I don't know what it is. I started off this year by saying I'm going to go further afield doing boot sales, which I have actually done, but nowhere near as much as I should be doing. I've had offers of people to put me up down south as well, so I've really got no excuse. So next season, I'm going to head down to the south coast, very far south. I'm going to go up to Scotland as well. Sure to fill out the item specifics. eBay algorithm definitely rewards listings that they put F in. Yeah, absolutely. I think you are absolutely right, of course. But it's just making it more relevant. You're making your listing more relevant to people who want to buy. So if you imagine every single item specific that you use, in fact, it even says on a lot of the item specifics, such and such, so many people search for this item specific, and they'll range from a few thousand to a few hundred kind of thing. But the more item specifics you're using, if you imagine a big beaker full of potential hundreds and hundreds of potential buyers, the more item specifics you're using, the more you're topping up that beaker of eyes. That sounds, I mean, it's nearly Halloween. It sounds really creepy, but I'm sure you know what I mean. I know this was very much all over the place, and I appreciate that to get any value from this video whatsoever, it might need watching 3 times. But those were the main points from eBay Open. There was a lot more to the day. Of course, there's a lot of case studies as well. Most of which were actually relevant. I mean, I thought that there was a very, very large number of huge businesses on eBay, but really, eBay seems to be more catered to the individual resellers or the smaller, anything up to sort of like low, medium-sized businesses. That they really do seem passionate about those sellers rather than the big international corporations and whatnot that have hundreds of thousands of listings. eBay do care about our success because our success equals their success. I'm saying this because it's practical, and I'm not saying this because I'm any form of advocate for eBay. Just recently, I had a few conversations about how much value for money eBay is, or how well, it started off as a conversation about how expensive fees are on eBay. But realistically speaking, eBay is by a very, very, very long way the biggest platform of its kind in the world. And it's not about how much it's not about how much it costs. It's about how much value it is. And it's up to us as resellers to maximize that potential. So, for example, if you had a brick and mortar store, then there'd be a lot more fees to consider, different types of bills. But as far as footfall through your eBay store is concerned, or through any online store, you'll never have the potential. You won't have the potential that eBay gives you. So I think it's amazing value for money. That's just my take on it. I'd be interested to hear what you guys think. I was amazed I can get a call back in less than 1 minute from me, but absolutely, how they do it. I mean, if only Amazon was like that. I've had a couple of instances this year where I've had to get in contact with Amazon customer services. It's a nightmare. It's an absolute nightmare. Probably without exception, eBay customer services is amazing. It's absolutely amazing. They might not always give you the answer that you want, or the decisions might not always go your way, but there's no denying eBay customer services are amazing. Ian and Shabba, we're just about wrapping this up as well. Sorry I missed you at the eBay Open, mate. In fact, because you were there, you probably have more of a you probably have quite a good take on this video. Not that I'm going to do it all over again for your benefit, mate. Sorry. How did you find it, though? I asked that question knowing full well that I'm just going to pull the plug on this live in a couple of minutes. So this weekend, tomorrow, I'm going to have a duvet day, I think, which is extremely rare for me. What will actually happen will be I get absolutely bored out of my gourd by about 9:30 in the morning, having a lie in and get up and do something. I'm sat, I know you can't see it, but I've got a lot of stock that I've sourced, retail arbitrage and online arbitrage, that needs prepping to send into Amazon on Monday. Amazon is going great guns at the minute. It's going to be a very, very, very good Christmas, I think. The eBay activity is showing no signs of slowing up as well. Now I've just shot myself in the foot. I'm going to have a really sucky weekend. So I'll open up to the chat to have you guys tell me what you're doing this weekend for the final few minutes. If I have my own shop plus own website and eventually had a factory, but the expenses are huge. eBay is fairly reasonable in comparison. Plus, as you say, footfall is good. Absolutely. Absolutely. This is why I always get a wry smile when a car boot sale when somebody says to me, this item is such and such a price on eBay. You're not going to get 500,000 people walking past the front of your car boot table. I don't say that. It's exceptional value for money. And going back to the point on promoted listings, I always look at that as ad spend rather than just another way for eBay to get money on you, out of you. Because if you relate it to a brick and mortar store, having your eBay store is paying your rent for your building. Your promoted listings is the equivalent of sticking an advert in a local paper or on the radio, so on and so forth. So if you kind of train your mindset to look at it that way, then all of a sudden it seems more value for money. I'll watch it back. We left early. Some of the rooms were signed up, but not for me. Should have stayed in the main hall. Yeah, it was great for networking. I found it. So I booked a one-on-one with an eBay representative, and I found that really, really rewarding actually, because They went through my store and said actually it was pretty good. There's a couple of areas that I could have tweaked. They recommend setting your video. Although you can do an introduction video for your store now, which I still haven't done. So they recommend doing that as well. It doesn't have to be about you. It can be, but as long as there's something there, because people buy off people. There was a couple of examples on the day of people who sold themselves, essentially saying, this is Joe Blogs from wherever. I set up my eBay store in such and such a day, and I use it to, I don't know, pay my bills or whatever it is, kind of thing. It doesn't have to be high production value either. So that was worthwhile. But anyway, the feedback I got from that one-on-one with the eBay rep was just brilliant, absolutely brilliant. I think just the whole general sort of like feeling of the day was that eBay actually does give a shit about us, which is great. Evening, Ross. How are you, sir? You're a bit late to the show, mate. We're just going to pull the plug any minute. Maybe a boot sale on Sunday. Quite a bit of listing to do. Get into it, mate. Get into it. Hi, Steve. Just up the road. When we go to Norcross tomorrow, it's not on. Cancelled, apparently. Okay, last few comments, and then I'll pull the plug. Ooh. Nice. New car day is always a good day. New bike day's even better. Same with charity shops charging eBay prices for really niche rare books, but don't have it on the eBay store. Yeah, I always wondered that. Someone isn't going to walk off the street to buy a niche Terry Pratchett book. Yeah, it's just, I don't see why people do it, but anyway, it's very common. I always say to sellers, I know what you think the eBay price is, but I'm asking you what in the field price is. Yes, 100%. In fact, I think that was in my video yesterday as well. Somebody asking me what I wanted for it, and we saying, well, let's just tell me where to start my bidding. The one was pretty good, but I buggered off to Manchester and got drunk in a coin exchange. I take it you didn't hear about the free bar either, Shabba. Honestly, I know Brum Reseller and Andrew, they knew. They knew. Stayed in Manchester and got drunk at eBay's expense. I'll know for next time. Oh, incidentally, if you ever do, it's only open to business sellers, but if ever you do get invited to eBay Open, at the very least, respond. Don't say you're. The number one thing is don't say you're going to go and don't go, because you'll never get invited again, apparently. I very much recommend going. It's very beneficial. The food is amazing as well. But yeah, it's definitely worthwhile from a networking point of view, and from just to, I don't know, just to get appraised, I suppose. Get a one-on-one, book a one-on-one with an eBay representative, and get your store appraised, because ideally you're doing what you need to be doing. But if you're not, then it'll give you a G up. And like I say, it may be a case of because of Q4 as well. But since I implemented the changes from eBay Open, my sales have been very significantly improved, very significantly. So there's a few factors to that. It's not just because of the implementations from eBay Open, but it's given me a leg up. It really has. So if you get the opportunity, go. But if you can't make it, still respond to the invitation saying you can't make it. Working at a charity shop told me that they've been told by those above that they have to use eBay to price their items. Stupid, in my opinion. Yeah, I kind of get the logic, but it's very flawed logic. Very flawed. Last comment from Ross. If it'll bloody click, yeah, bugger. All good, Dave. Not as good as others about the posh. Yeah, I know. I would imagine some people are seething after putting that much effort into the platform. I mean, how long has it been around? It can't be more than 4 or 5 months, is it? Something like that. 6 at the outside. Is it good for competition having a platform die? Is it? Oh, sorry, but it isn't good for competition having a platform die. Platforms have competition is good for us resellers. I'm not sure about that, Ross. You know, I think, yeah, I think it's just a matter of preference. I don't think unless. I don't think ever eBay will have competition in this field. If I'm on in their field, I don't think they'll ever have competition, because even if an idea comes along that's absolutely amazing and it has a lot of sort of like nuances that are better than eBay, because eBay's so well established and so far down the road, they won't be caught up. They won't be caught up. It'd be nice to think that. For us as resellers, could have another string to our bow. But I don't think the eBay crown is for taking. I really don't. Have some broken VHS players. Would you advise shifting them to car boot, or just say they're untested from a house clearance? If they're broken, I wouldn't say they're untested, no, because that's bullshit, Johnny. And just sell them as, if you want to sell them as spares or repairs. If you're going to do it online, yeah, don't bullshit people. That comes back to you bite you in the ass like every time. I can't imagine anybody would buy them on a car boot anyway, to be fair. Personally speaking, I just mag to grid them. I just bin them. I don't think there's any value in them at all. If they were sort of like Freeview recorders or something with a hard drive, they might have parts value, but no, just get rid. Make space in your head, make space in your garage or wherever. Right, I'm going to wrap it up there. Thank you so much for spending this Friday evening with me. I really want to get my tea, so I'm going to bugger off. I hope you have a massively successful weekend, whatever you're doing, whether it be putting your feet up or whether it be getting out to the boot sales. I've got another video coming out tomorrow. That's from Bolton about 3 weeks ago. And it's short and sweet. It's a little, I say it's a little bit different. It's a car boot sale video, which I know a lot of people watch my channel to watch, like the car boot element of it rather than the resale element of it, which is fine. I don't mind. But yes, thank you for watching, and I will see you very soon. Take care.